I stepped out of the airport and the heat wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I had been abroad for months, living out of a suitcase, working long days, telling myself the whole time that the moment I got home I would finally breathe again. On the flight, I pictured it over and over. My key in my lock, my hallway light, my couch, my bed, the ordinary safety of my own place. I rented a car and drove straight to my neighborhood. I turned onto my street, and my tired smile lasted only a few seconds. There was a black SUV sitting in my driveway, not at the curb, not pulled off for a delivery, parked deep like it belonged there. For a moment, my brain tried to protect me. I told myself I had the wrong street even though I knew every crack in that sidewalk. I slowed down, stared at the mailbox, stared at the tree I planted years ago. It was my house. I parked behind the SUV and stepped out. My suitcase was still in the passenger seat. My body moved forward, but my mind lagged behind like it was bracing for impact. The front door was open, and a man I had never seen before was standing in the doorway holding a folder of papers, calm and settled, like he was waiting for a contractor. He looked at me the way someone looks at a stranger who wandered onto their porch by mistake. "Can I help you?" he said. I stopped at the bottom step, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was shaking my ribs. "This is my house," I said. He blinked, glanced at the folder, then back at me. "Not anymore," he said. "I closed on this place 10 days ago. I have the deed, 10 days ago." I had been overseas, thousands of miles away, working, believing my life was safe here. He lifted the top page so I could see it. Stamps, dates, my address printed like a verdict, and my name. My name was on a document that said my home had been sold. I stepped closer, my legs weak, my stomach turning. I scanned the page as if it might change if I stared hard enough. Then I saw the signature at the bottom. Mine. It looked like mine. The swoop. The rushed finish. The shape I have written 1,000 times. But I knew in my bones that I had not signed anything. I had not listed my home. I had not authorized a sale. I had not even spoken to a realtor. I stared at that signature and felt my body go hot, not from the sun, from rage. The man in the doorway shifted his weight, suddenly unsure if he should be afraid of me. I forced air into my lungs. He was not the enemy. He was the person someone else used as a shield. "I am sorry," I said. "I think you were lied to. I need every name you have, and I need to know where my things went." His face changed, relief and worry mixed together. He flipped through papers and pointed to a title company and a closing agent name. Then he hesitated and said they told him my belongings had been moved to storage. Storage. My house was gone. My belongings were gone. And someone had cashed out my entire life while I was abroad. If your own family ever took something from you and then blamed you for reacting, you already know the kind of silence that hit me in that driveway. The buyer wrote down an address for the storage facility and handed it to me. He looked genuinely uncomfortable, like he wanted to disappear. I thanked him because he had no idea he was holding the match someone else used to set my life on fire. Then I turned around, walked back down the driveway, and got into my rental car. The air conditioner blasted cold air into my face, but it did nothing. The heat was inside me now. I stared at the storage address. I already knew who did this. There was only one person bold enough to commit fraud with my name, and still believe he would be protected. My brother. He had always lived like the world owed him. Every failure was someone else's fault. Every bad choice needed someone else's money to fix it. And my family always covered him. But selling my house, that was not being irresponsible. That was being predatory. I drove to the storage facility with my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. The place was a long stretch of metal doors and shimmering pavement. The kind of heat that makes everything look warped, like reality is melting. I went into the office and gave my name. The woman at the desk checked the computer and said, "Yes, there is a unit under that name." She asked for my ID. I handed it to her. She compared it to the screen and frowned. "This unit is under your name," she said, "but the person who signed the agreement was a man." My vision blurred for a second. She slid a form toward me. I signed it. My real signature. Then she handed me a key and pointed down the row. I walked to the unit like I was walking to a grave. When I unlocked it and rolled up the door, the smell hit me first. Dust, old cardboard, trapped air. My furniture was jammed in at angles like someone stacked it with anger. Boxes were crushed. A lampshade was cracked. My couch had a long, dirty streak, like it had been dragged on asphalt. I stepped inside and started opening boxes. Clothes, kitchen items, random junk. Then I opened a box labeled fragile. Picture frames. Half were broken, photos bent, corners creased. And then I found the thing that made my legs buckle. An old photo album with worn corners and cheap plastic sleeves. Inside were pictures of my grandmother, me as a kid on her lap, birthdays, messy cake, laughing faces I never posted online because they were mine. Water had gotten in, ink had bled. Some faces were smeared into ghosts. I sat down on the concrete floor and stared at those ruined photos, and something in me went quiet. My house being sold was a financial violation. This was an attempt to erase me. I cried, not loud, not dramatic, just the kind of crying that happens when you realize the people who were supposed to protect you were the ones holding the knife. Then I wiped my face, stood up and looked around the unit again. Crying would not bring my home back. Begging would not fix this. And yelling at my brother would only feed him. I walked back to my car, sat down and stared at my phone. I did not call my brother first. I called my father. My hands were steady now, which scared me more than shaking. Dad answered on the second ring. What he said like I had interrupted his day. Dad, I said. I just got home. There is a stranger living in my house. He has a deed. My house was sold. There was silence for a heartbeat. Then he sighed like I told him the grocery store was out of milk. Lower your voice, he said. You are being dramatic. I am not being dramatic, I said. My house is gone. Who sold it? And then he said the line that will live in my head forever. Stop being greedy, he said. It was a family asset. I blinked. A family asset. My home. The one I paid for. The one in my name. The one I maintained while my brother floated through life like a parasite. It is not a family asset, I said. It is my house. You were abroad, he said. You were not here. Your brother needed a chance. We made a decision. That word turned my stomach. So, you decided to sell my house while I was out of the country, I said. Dad's voice hardened. You act like you are the only one who matters, he said. Your brother needed money to start over. It was the right thing for the family. Stop being greedy. I felt something in me detach like a cord snapping. I could have screamed. I could have begged. I could have tried to make him feel shame. Instead, I did something else. I got calm. I softened my voice, like I was trying to understand. I just need to know what happened, I said. Where did you sign? Who notarized it? Who handled it? Dad hesitated, then gave a few details without realizing he was feeding me ammunition. A place. A contact. The idea that my brother took care of everything. He kept talking, justifying it, and I let him. Because every word he said was a brick I could stack into a wall. I ended the call politely. Then I stared ahead in my car and made a decision. If you like smart revenge where the paperwork hits harder than the shouting, subscribe and stay with me, because what happened next was the part my family never saw coming. My brother forgot what I do for a living. I work in compliance and auditing. I spend my days looking at documents and asking one question. Does this make sense? I checked into a cheap hotel still in my travel clothes, opened my laptop and started pulling records. Property records are public. Deeds get filed. Transfers leave trails. I searched my address and found the recorded deed. My name. The buyer name. The recorded date. The notarization block. Then I pulled my travel proof. Flight confirmations. Email timestamps. The photos I took overseas. My calendar entries. The signing date on the deed landed on a day I was abroad. Not in the same city. Not in the same state. Not even on the same continent. That contradiction alone was enough to raise alarms. Then I looked at the notary information. Name. Commission number. Location. I searched the commission details and found inconsistencies. The stamp information did not match what it should have. The address looked off. The pattern looked like someone trying to imitate legitimacy, not someone doing it for real. I did not need to solve every detail myself. I just needed enough to show it was fraud. I started building a file. I made a folder labeled evidence and dropped everything inside. Property record, deed, travel proof, storage paperwork, notes from the buyer, my call notes with Dad. Then I contacted the title company. They did not hand me everything. They did not talk like a gossiping friend. They talked like a company protecting itself. They gave me the closing agent name, confirmed there was a completed file tied to my address, and said anything beyond that would require a formal fraud report. That was fine, because I was about to make it formal. By then, it was already getting dark, and my brain felt like it had been running for hours without food. I went back through everything again, line by line, and asked myself what would hold up under real scrutiny. Paper is good, but Americans trust one thing more than anything: video. So the next morning I drove back to the neighborhood and knocked on my neighbor's door. She opened it and her face tightened when she saw me. "Oh my gosh," she said. "You are back. Did you see anything while I was gone?" I asked. She did not even pretend. "Your brother was here a lot," she said. "People came with a truck. They were moving things." I asked if she had any camera footage. She pointed at her doorbell camera. "Of course," she said. She pulled it up and we scrolled. There he was. My brother on my porch holding keys. My brother letting people in. A moving truck. Boxes carried out. My belongings. My life leaving my house while I was overseas. She sent me the clips. I thanked her and walked back to my car with a cold kind of confidence. This was no longer my word against theirs. Now I had real records and real footage. Then I checked my brother's social media. It was full of new purchases. A watch. A car. Trips. Captions about fresh starts. While I had been sitting on a storage unit floor staring at ruined photos he had been celebrating, I took screenshots of everything. Then I set the trap. If I confronted him angry, he would deny and play victim. If I approached him like I was broken, he would gloat. And when he gloats, he talks. I messaged him like a defeated sister. I said I was shocked. I said I wanted to talk. I said I wanted to understand. He responded fast. He told me I was gone. He told me I always land on my feet. He told me he cashed out. He told me to stop acting like a victim. Then he wrote something that made my stomach turn. He said I did not deserve a $1.2 million house anyway. I saved it. I backed it up. I emailed screenshots to myself. I made sure that confession could not vanish. That night, I printed documents until the hotel clerk looked at me like I was planning a heist. I built a binder. Sections. Dates. Proof. Clean and boring the way real evidence needs to be. The next morning, I went to the police station. I told the officer my identity had been used to sell my home while I was abroad. I told him I had evidence. His face carried skepticism until I slid the binder across the counter. He opened it, flipped through. His expression changed. He called a detective. The detective sat with me and asked questions. I answered like I was at work, calm, precise, factual. He nodded at the travel proof. He leaned in at the camera footage. He paused at the messages. Then he said he would open an investigation. He told me not to confront my family in a way that could escalate. I told him I understood. Then I asked if it would help if I could get them all in one place. He studied me for a moment, then said yes. He told me to send the location and time once it was set, and to keep everything exactly as it was. I walked out with a case number, a detective card, and a plan. My family believed family meant immunity. They believed I would stay quiet to protect the name. They forgot something. I do not protect people who harm me. I texted my father and said we needed to talk. I said I wanted to find a solution without destroying the family. That line was bait. He responded quickly, relieved. He suggested dinner. My brother agreed, because he could not resist a victory lap. We chose a nice restaurant, the kind of place my father loves, because it looks respectable. The kind of place my brother loves because it makes him feel important. I arrived early. I picked a table with a clear view of the entrance. When they walked in, my brother was smiling. My father looked stern, like he was about to lecture a child. They sat down and did not even ask how my flight was. My brother started first, so he said, "You are back." My father leaned forward. "We need to be clear," he said. "You are not going to cause a scene. We did what we had to do." My brother smirked. "It is done," he said. "I cashed out." My father added it like a final stamp. "Stop being greedy," he said. "It was a family asset." I took a slow breath and asked one question. "Did you really think you could steal a $1.2 million home and nobody would notice?" I said. My brother laughed a short, careless laugh. Then the front door opened and two officers walked in with the detective right behind them. My brother's laugh died mid-breath. My father froze like someone pulled the power cord out of him. The detective walked up, looked at my father, looked at my brother, and said their names. My brother tried to smile. "This is a mistake," he said. The detective did not smile back. He said there was an investigation regarding fraudulent sale of property, identity theft, and forged documents. My father went pale. My brother started talking fast, tripping over words. "It was family," he said. "It was complicated. It was not like that." The detective told him to stand. My brother looked at Dad like a child looking for rescue. Dad did not move, because in that moment he understood something he never wanted to understand. Family does not stop the law. The officers cuffed my brother. The click of metal closing was louder than anything in that restaurant. People stared. Forks paused. Conversations stopped. My brother turned toward me with panic in his eyes. "You cannot do this," he said. I looked at him and spoke quietly. "You forgot that every forged sale still has to survive real records, real witnesses, and a detective who knows fraud when he sees it." My father finally found his voice. "Please," he said. "This is my son." The detective nodded, then said a felony is still a felony. My brother started pleading, saying he needed the money, saying he would pay me back, saying he was trying to start over. I did not respond. I did not need to. The evidence spoke for me. They let him out. My father sat there staring at his water glass like it held answers. Then he looked at me and tried to soften his tone. "We did not mean to hurt you," he said. "We thought you would understand. Understand that you sold my home while I was abroad, forged my name, moved my life into storage, ruined my memories, then called me greedy," I said. He flinched. I leaned in slightly and said the only truth that mattered. "Family is not permission to steal." He swallowed and tried one last line. "You did not have to do it like this," he said. I nodded. "You did not have to do it at all," I said. Then I stood up, picked up my binder, and walked out without looking back. Outside, the air was still hot, still heavy, but it did not feel like it was choking me anymore. The legal process took time. Real life always does. The buyer was protected because he was also pulled into fraud. Paperwork moved slowly, meetings happened, statements were taken, and my evidence kept doing its job even when I was not in the room. My brother did not get to keep what he stole. My father did not get to hide behind family asset anymore. And I did not get my old family back because I realized I never truly had it. What I got instead was something I should have demanded years ago: a clean cut, no more calls that start with guilt, no more showing up to fix problems I did not create, no more being the responsible one while everyone else plays pretend. I moved into a new place not because I could not reclaim what was mine, but because I did not want to sleep under the shadow of that betrayal. I wanted fresh walls and clean air, a start that belonged to me. Sometimes I still think about those ruined photos. I still think about my grandmother's smile, blurred by water and neglect. That part still hurts. But then I remember the restaurant going quiet when the cuffs clicked shut. I remember my father's face when he realized family was not a shield. I remember my brother finally seeing consequences. They did not break me. They exposed themselves. If you are still here, thank you for staying with me through this. If you have ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you, you are not alone and you are not wrong for feeling angry. Subscribe if you want more family revenge stories like this. Stories with receipts. Stories where people learn that blood does not make theft acceptable. Your support helps me keep making these, and it helps other people realize they are allowed to fight back.